Just kind of starting off with our main story. Of course, it's the story that has been sweeping the interwebs, sweeping the YouTubes, sweeping the film news, and that is the Snyder Cut. It's happening, and we're going to talk about why I think it's a bad idea. Some of the maybe possibilities of it being good as well, but I'm kind of swaying towards the negative here. So, I think this happened during a watch along for Man of Steel, if I'm correct. Zack Snyder announced that HBO Max will debut the Justice League Snyder Cut in either a 4-hour cut of the film or a 6-episode miniseries, kind of television format, in 2021. Now, for all the people that have been kind of like released the Snyder Cut, fighting for it, and all that kind of stuff, the film's not done yet. Everybody, who said that, it's 100% completed, they just need to release it. If it was that case, they would have released it a long time ago. They probably wouldn't have made any changes to it if it was 100% complete and just pushed it out back in 2017. So no, the film is not done. It still requires some score work. It still requires some more editing. It still requires visual effects work, and from what I hear, maybe some more voice recording as well. Looks like the estimated costs are going to be about $30 million. I don't know how to take that, if it's going to mean $30 million. I guess $30 million of added visual effects. Like, will this be a finished cut of the film or not? I don't really know. Maybe it's just a $30 million to make it watchable. We don't really know what that all means. I'm hoping it's a finished cut of the film, but $30 seems like not a lot to spend on this, unless there was a lot more done than expected. But it still does need some work to finish up. So I think you mentioned as well that we've only seen 1/4 of the finished film through the theatrical cut. So probably about an hour's worth of the 2-hour film was Snyder's own work. And you can leave it up to yourself to whether or not that's a good idea. It kind of brings up this question, too, of how our directors decided on a film, because there's been a number of cases, be it Justice League, be it Bohemian Rhapsody, Solo, Rogue One, where like the director has not been able to return. I think Greatest Showman has not been able to take part in the full development of the film, and kind of how has the director decided. It's mostly arbitrated by the DGA, and unless there's a director team like the Wachowskis or the Coens, the DGA doesn't usually do joint credits, so they really don't like joint credits, so they will probably pick someone, and it's either, it's kind of a combination of who shot first or who shot the most. And usually, if most of the production is done, a director's credit will be given to whoever did it first. And so Zack Snyder, of course, with Justice League. In the case of Solo, the two directors that were let go in favor of Ron Howard let themselves be taken off the director list. Sometimes that'll happen too, where they don't want to be associated with the final cut because it's not their vision. Bohemian Rhapsody, most of the work was done, but they had to reshoot quite a bit of other things, odds and ends, because Bryan Singer is a jerkwad. And so Dexter Fletcher had to clean up a lot of the film, but it's still, since Singer shot first, usually it goes towards that stuff as well. But in the case of if somebody shoots like more than a certain amount, that can also be kind of attributed over there as well. It kind of brings down, some major questions about the Snyder Cut. I mean, outside of the obvious, will this be a finished cut? Will this be what a theatrical cut would look like? Or is it going to be kind of choppy? Is it going to be a little unclean? Like, how much is WB really going to push for this? And I think quite a bit, because HBO Max is starting out as a service, I think, next week, and they are going to be needing some content. But if you look at some of the things that they've already got set up on their Skyline, they've got a lot of content coming soon. And when you combine HBO and Warner Brothers and DC and all these major worlds that will be available on one network, it's pretty cool. But, more product is better, and I think you're going to get a ton of people to sign up to watch this Snyder Cut. And I think $30 million as a purchase for another piece of content that I think is going to bring a lot of people, it's good in that way. It's a good business decision based on that. But we have a couple questions to ask here. And first of all, will the film actually deliver? And that's a big question, because I'm a Zack Snyder defender. I'm a fan of his. I've watched a number of his films. I really love a number of his films. I was surprised by how good Dawn of the Dead's remake was. James Gunn wrote the screenplay and Zack Snyder directed it, but I am a big fan of the original Dawn of the Dead, and it's tough for me to say that any film as a remake of that could even do it close to justice. And what's great about that, and we brought this up before, is the new Dawn of the Dead is it's a remake in overall shell, in skeleton, but tonally it's a completely different film. It's a different experience altogether. It's got a different energy, a different vibe to it, and it's a terrific movie that pays homage but does its own thing too. And it's kind of like we talked about this previously with the Suspiria films. The original's one of my top 10 horror films of all time. The remake is completely different, but it does have the skeletal bones of the film. It's got the same general plot structure, just completely reinvented. And that's what the Dawn of the Dead remake does. 300 makes terrific use of a very, very short graphic novel. I think the 300 graphic novel is like 35, 40 pages maybe. And they do a terrific job of translating that film. Watchmen is one of my favorite, it's my favorite Zack Snyder film, but it's one of my favorite superhero movies. I think the way it critiques it, I'm a big, staunch defender of Watchmen. I think it's a fantastic movie. Was not huge on Guardians of Gahul, whatever that one was actually called. It was fine. And Sucker Punch was a visually stunning mess. But I think his directing is not to blame for that. I think it's just he's not a very good screenwriter. And I think he needs some more work with that before we can continue to let him screenwrite. But then it comes down to, his work in the DCEU. Batman, or Man of Steel, I thought was fine. I don't like the dour look of Superman. I don't like the way that they look at Superman with this kind of... A lot of people love it. It's just not for me. But it's fine. It's watchable. And Batman v Superman, I remember enjoying the film, and I really liked the Ultimate Edition. I thought the Ultimate Edition made up for a lot of the flaws within that really bloated runtime. And I like the Justice League theatrical cut. It's a fine movie, but it's very forgettable. So the question is, will the film deliver? Really watching this, all the people that have complained for years, will this shut them up? Will this, or are this something where they're going to watch it, they're going to love it, and they're going to be just loud and boisterous about how amazing the film is? Or are they going to hate it and then never admit it because they've been complaining about this movie for 3 years? I don't know, but I think Zack Snyder's track record is pretty strong. I'm really excited to see his new zombie film set in Vegas. I can't remember the name of it. Army of the Dead, I think it is, and it's going to hit Netflix this year. I'm excited to see that film. I don't know. I don't know if this is a case of delivering or not. But it's definitely, since it's coming out, I will watch it. Next question I got to ask, though, is what is canon at this point? As we know, there are some major differences between Zack Snyder's cut and the theatrical cut. Zack Snyder, over the past year, has been very vocal on what's that, Vimeo or whatever that thing is, Vero, that he has an account on. He just throws pictures up. He's the only person I know who's on Vero. And he's been very vocal on social media and all over the place with content things about Martian Manhunter being in the film. That's not a thing. We get hints of the Green Lantern Corps and hints of them, but really nothing real in depth on the Green Lantern Corps. We get a lot of Steppenwolf Darkseid stuff. What is that going to mean in terms of canon? Because had this happened when the ultimate cut of Batman versus Superman happened right afterwards, that's different, because you can kind of say, okay, this is our theatrical cut, we did do an R-rated cut, that's our canon. What does canon mean 4 years after this film comes out, when the DCEU has moved forward, in essence, in its own way? And I got to assume Aquaman was written and filmed before Justice League came out, so I got to assume that probably didn't deviate from the plans. I got to assume Aquaman survives Justice League. Shazam's kind of, done something different, though. Birds of Prey's done something different. Wonder Woman 84, I guess I wonder, will we deviate much from that? If we ever get a Martian Manhunter in the actual DCU, is it going to be the same one that was introduced to us in the Snyder Cut? Or is it going to be something along the lines of, this is just a fun little experiment to show people? That's kind of the question I have. And I think that as we get closer to the release, we need to know if this is going to be canonically part of this franchise, or just a fun little like, hey, check it out, man. Because that's kind of what it comes down to. There was a director's cut of Alien that came out in 2003, I believe, in which Ridley Scott put some sequences back into his original film, including a sequence of like the alien creating egg sacs out of its human hosts, which in the years since the original Alien film, that's not really part of what the alien life cycle is. It's because it wasn't included in the theatrical cut, the franchise has taken its own way. So Alien's director's cut can't be canon because it's deviated from where it was. Now, if that was released back in 1979 with those scenes in, we'd have a different kind of franchise here. So it's kind of that whole question of like, this is going to deviate from where the original Justice League was, and which one is DC going to follow, and will they even say? Because I think if we get to a place of continuity is nothing, like what the X-Men films were doing, I think that, I don't know, I think that kind of diminishes the magic of a cinematic universe. It's not that difficult to give some Easter eggs and to just pay attention to the forward momentum, and that's kind of what I think about that. So last question that we got to ask about the Snyder Cut actually happening: does it set a precedent? And I think yeah, in kind of a bad way it does. It sets a precedent in a couple different ways, which is, they're a business. WB is a business, and I didn't like that they let Zack Snyder go. Whether or not it was related to a horrible tragedy that happened, or them letting him because they weren't happy with the product. The DCU has jumped the gun on so many things since its inception, where they announced 3 times as many films as that have actually come out right now. They moved pieces around, they recut films without directors' involvement, and they listened to the fans way too much. In the time since this film has come, or as the Snyder Cut has been announced, we've had like David Ayer coming forward asking for an Ayer cut of Suicide Squad, because we know that when they cut together a trailer for Suicide Squad that was pretty popular, they had to recut an entire movie to fit that new tone, the tone of a trailer. They hired a trailer house to cut a film. And does it set a precedent for the fans get what they want then? I think they're a business and they need to put out a product, be happy with that product, and move on. The Snyder Cut, I think I'd actually almost rather have it just be the, just the bare bones film where, like green screen that just says Steppenwolf here or something like that. Something I just want to like read the script, but like to see the actual film, I don't know. Like I'm going to watch it because it's there. But do I need it? No, probably not at this point. I'd rather have had him kept on the film, yes, but he wasn't. He wasn't kept on the film, and it's unfortunate. If they wanted to keep him on like that, they should have postponed the release, because it wasn't going to be ready by its release date. But as we know now, there were some people that worked for WB that wanted their bonuses at the end of the year, and so they threw out a lackluster product for it. Does it set a precedent saying that they're going to cater to fans? I mean, we already had this with Sonic the Hedgehog getting redesigned. Because fans complained. And it's funny because they complained about something so small in a trailer with Sonic. It's dumb. This is a bit of a larger scale thing, but I think you put out Justice League, it turned a slight profit, bury it and move on. If you want to, bring in some of Zack Snyder's ideas from his cut of the film, his original screenplay maybe, for Justice League 2, do it. But at the same time, this might, if it's good, it might save the Justice League film and therefore actually make us get a sequel. So there's that going for it too. But the question, does it set a precedent, also asks the question, does it set a precedent that directors who didn't get the film they wanted, can they ask for it now? And do they deserve to have it? Does David Ayer deserve to have a new version of Suicide Squad that's been cut by him? Paul Feig said he has a 3.5-hour cut of Ghostbusters to Answer the Call. Does he deserve to have that released? I don't know. So there's a lot of questions about that. I think the Snyder Cut had its time in 2017, and if they wanted to release an extended edition, I think that would have been the time to do so, because WB also does care about its directors. They do. You look at something like Doctor Sleep, which came out last year, had a 2.5 hour theatrical cut, but it wasn't the director's vision of the film. And they gave the director a 3 hour cut of the film, or they gave him the leeway to create that and release it on home video. And the director's cut is better; it's a better film. They do a lot more director's cuts in a time frame right now where that doesn't happen as often. They do a lot more director's cuts. So there's a lot of questions about Snyder Cut, and I don't always have the answers. So I want to know what you guys think. First of all, are you interested in the Snyder Cut? Were you one of the release of Snyder Cut people? Let me know in the comments below. Will you be getting HBO Max in order to watch it? I would like to know. Do you think that it's going to deliver? Or do you think it's going to be a massive dumpster fire? Do you think WB will keep it canon with there, or will they kind of just have it be a fun experiment and then throw it to the side? And does it set a precedent, telling fans that they should get what they want, even though fans don't always agree about what they want? As well as directors, do you think David Ayer should get up in line next and say, "Where's my Suicide Squad"? Let me know in the comments below, because it's a real weird situation. And I was a staunch person who said whether or not I cared for a Snyder Cut, I didn't think it was actually ever going to happen. But wow, it did. So, there you have it, guys. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on this, and we'll keep you informed as we keep going.